Hi, it's Winton Churchill with the Barefoot Consultants. How are you doing on this Friday afternoon as we get started here in the central U.S. time zone? And today we're going to be talking about an interesting topic. It's the obstacles that I see people frequently encountering as they start their online freelance business. They get set up and they launch, and there's a few strategic decisions that you want to make at the beginning of that will help you, and not so good if you don't make those as you get started. So we're going to be talking about that as well. And I'd like to welcome all of those of you listening live, but also those of you listening to the recording of this. We find that about 95% of our views come from people that watch this after we finish it live. And we're happy to take questions in the chat area and answer those as you have them. Just fire away. Let us know where you're calling in from. That's always fun to know, and happy to answer any questions you might have along the way. So let's get started on the obstacles. One of the obstacles, and these are all, I would say, in the mindset category. New freelancers think, especially anybody that's over 50, well, I was working in a job and I was making whatever it might have been, 50, 60, 70, $80,000 a year or more. And I should just be able to turn to freelancing and make that same amount of money. And yes, in a perfect world, maybe you would turn to freelancing and make exactly that amount of money. But let's break it down. So $80,000 a year is divided by $2,000 is $40 an hour. And a lot of people don't get this. I mean, we were used to thinking about our salary or our employment as, that was a big annual number. And I had somebody not long ago tell me who was making $50,000 a year that said, well, I'm not making enough money doing this. I'm only making $20 an hour. And I pointed out that is exactly an annualized pay rate of $40,000 a year. So if they wanted to replace their income, they just need to work more hours. And so then the challenge is become finding more hours at $20 an hour rather than, trying to increase their hourly rate. And so that's an important concept to get. The other thing to know on these jobs, as you first go into the system, the mindset is, I want to get the big job. I want to get the $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 job. But the truth is, you don't know how to use the online system yet. You haven't had enough tick-tock back and forth with the online system, and you're going to be a little bit confused about how that works. You want to allow a little bit longer time. It's like if I'm going on a business trip and I'm connecting through an international airport that I've never been through before, usually you have to clear customs and you have to allow some extra time to do that. Well, this is the same way. You have to allow some extra time to get comfortable with the system. The good news is, when I talk about extra time, I'm talking about 30 to 60 days rather than years or even months. It's relatively short once you get started. So you want to go in. It's like going into the gym after not working there for a while. You want to start out on the easy weights. You're not going to, if you've been away from the gym for 2 months, you're not going to go back in and start right back where you were with the weights that you had before and the reps that you had before. You're going to lower that to adjust for the fact that you're building up. And the same is true when you go onto these networks. So what you're most focused on is that recommendation rating. You want to get that 5-star rating as you do those simple first jobs. And that's the concept here that's operative as you get started. And so many people bring a lot of ego to this, and they say, well, I'm not going to work for $20 an hour. Well, that's, you know, that's really your paid interview. I like to have people think of that of when you went out on an interview for a job for a company. Sometimes they, they invite you in, you bring in your resume, and or they have it already printed off on email, and you sit down and you have a conversation. Well, they don't pay you for that. You either get the job or you don't get the job. And of course, in most jobs, there's many more people interviewing for them than actually get the job. So we we have this mindset of giving of our time and really to a degree our services, because a lot of times in those interviews they're asking you for recommendations about how you would approach a problem or that kind of thing. They oftentimes, and I know as a manager, oftentimes I got great ideas from interviewing people, and even though the person wasn't right for the job, the idea was good, and I went on to implement it. So in the freelance world, it's different. I tell that freelancers, our members, to think of they're paying you to interview. If they're going to take an hour of your time and they're going to pay you $20, $25 to do something, some little small job that gives them an idea of a piece of or a slice of your skill set. That's a good thing. And so if you're doing these small jobs like we recommend, you're learning how to use the system, you're getting experience looking for the right jobs, and you're getting experience going through the process of getting a job and delivering a job. And I know for a lot of people, there's a lot of learning that occurs in those first 6 small jobs. So just to put a sharp edge on it, if you did 6 jobs that were $500 a piece, that would be $3,000. And you may get mixed reaction to your rating, based on what you do for somebody, for a freelance buyer. And when you get that mixed reaction, you might get a 5-star rating on one job, but you might get a 2-star rating on another job, because when you're dealing with 500 jobs, they have an element of complexity, especially if you've never worked for that particular freelance buyer before, that you want to sort of tune out of your getting started stuff. If you do 5 $25 jobs, it's much simpler to do those. The jobs are much narrower in scope, and the person that you're doing them for, your freelance buyer, is much more likely to rate you highly, because it is a pretty specific job. It's what we like to call it's up and down. You're in, you do the job, and you're out. It takes an hour or two to do, and the person pays you and gives you a rating, and you're done. So a lot easier to get a 5-star rating as you're getting started across your first 6 jobs. And as you do those first 6 really simple jobs, you're learning a lot about how the system works, how the payments flow, all those kinds of things that are big question marks when you first start. So, overcoming that obstacle of having to have that first big job is a thing. Now, the second one, and I was talking to a member yesterday about this concept, is it has to do with flexibility. And this was a case where this person had gone in to Upwork, just got started going through our program, and did a job. And they got a good rating on it. It was a couple hours. I think it paid them $50, if memory serves. And so pretty simple thing to do. But the job was in an area that was not interesting to this woman. And she went on to do a few more jobs and, found jobs that she could do. She did those jobs. She completed the work, really got the sense of how the system works and how to put all this stuff together. But the jobs were in areas that she really, would not like to spend a lot of time working in. And this was in the area of domains of knowledge. She was a very talented proofreader and editor, and she liked doing that kind of work. But the subject matter on the jobs that she was doing that kind of work on were not appealing to her. And so the thing that I pointed out and that everyone should recognize is you want to have the flexibility to then go in once you get your, you know, 5-star ratings, 4 to 5 star ratings. You want to go in and find jobs in that area that are absolutely very interesting to you. Like, let's say you have a certain interest, like traveling to the Caribbean, you know, but you were an accountant for a major corporation for most of your career. Well, if you can find a job uh, doing spreadsheet work for a company that does travel to the Caribbean or has blogs about traveling to the Caribbean or that kind of thing, that's wonderful. That's the kind of work you love to show up and enjoy doing. If you're showing up to do a spreadsheet for a company that helps create a little inventory process for some obscure warehouse problem or something like that, that's not going to be fun. But if you are uh, all the time that you're working on the editing and proofreading that you might be doing, or even on a spreadsheet or whatever it might be for that company that is focused on the Caribbean, you're going to enjoy working with that person. You're going to enjoy talking about the subject matter. And so it's very easy within these systems to jump from doing proofreading to doing proofreading on the topics where you have great depth, you know, and it could be something like an interest like traveling to the Caribbean. It could be something out of your career that you enjoy. And it's interesting. Some people I talk to want to do things that are related to their career, and some people want to do things that have nothing to do with their career. And the great thing about this, working in these systems, is that you can do that. And I remember a few years ago, there was a woman that came into the program, and she was doing proofreading and editing, and she was just going for the generic job. She wanted to find a proofreading job, and she was not having much luck. And so we had a phone call, and I asked her, well, tell me about things you did when you were a kid. What memorable fun times uh, did you have? Was there anything that stood out? You know, did you like playing on a soccer team, or you know, preparing for the science fair, or what, just whatever it is. And it turned out that she actually, her family raised beagles, the dog, woof woof, beagles, and she loved beagles because she knew how to take care of them. From the time they were born to the time they were, sold to the people that bought them. And so in her house, it was always full of new generations of beagles, because that was part-time work for her family. And so I said, well, go into um, one of the systems, the online networks, and just type in the word beagle. And she said, now, do you mean I should look in the category of proofreading and editing, or and beagle? And I said, no, just type in beagle, because one of the unknown truths about these online networks is a lot of times people, when they write their job description, don't accurately categorize it. So you want to look across hundreds of thousands of jobs in some cases, and find the one that has the word beagle in it. And in this particular case, she actually uh, uh, went in and found 6 jobs that had the word beagle in them. And she, I think she bid on all 6, and she won 3 of them because she, uh, included her deep experience in raising beagles. So, just a very interesting new way to look at that, and it shows the importance of this domain of knowledge. And many people don't really understand this domain of knowledge that are working as freelancers today, they are under the misguided perception that if somebody wants to hire a proofreader and editor, they want to hire the best proofreader and editor on the system. And that's not true. They want to hire somebody at a price that fits their budget, that knows something about their field of interest, what they're asking you to proofread or edit, or whether it's help with a PowerPoint presentation or help with a customer service situation, or any of the other possible areas, of the over uh, 10,000 or 1,000 skills that are on many of these systems. So that flexibility is very important. And now, the next obstacle that most people bump into over 50 as they go in and start working on these systems is they follow our training and they get that it makes sense to get repeat business. Some people mistakenly come to the world of freelancing and think that they're going to get up every morning, they're going to bid on a job, they're going to do that job and finish it in a day or two, then press the I'm finished button and get paid. And it does work like that, but it's very time consuming and frustrating to start a new client every day or two. And if you've never been a consultant before, if you've never worked as a freelancer before, you know how much time it takes to get to know what their preferences are, what their interests are, what their timing is. Do they like to have 1 week turnaround on jobs, or do they need faster turnaround on jobs? Do they want to review a draft, or do they want to see the finished article if you're writing articles for them? There's just all kinds of different things that you learn about that client, that if you learn them, that client really appreciates you, and you are bonded to that client, because it's just like any relationship. If you are sensitive to somebody's preferences, and you help them, you tune into those, and you have an idea of what they want to do, what direction they might want to lean in for the uh, presentation of an article. Do they want it to be a how-to article, or do they want it to be a research article, or that kind of thing? So as you learn these things, they are excited about that, because if you're producing good results for them, they don't have to go back through the process of putting that project out for bid. And so a very typical kind of thing that happens is a company will put the same job out to bid, say writing an article, the exact same topic, the exact same length, the exact same deadline, and they'll put it out to 5 different people, because they want to get back 5 different articles and be able to read all of those articles. And usually what happens is 1 or 2 of those articles are head and shoulders above the others. And that's who they want to bring in as the people that help them go forward. And so the milestone, or the concept that is hard to grasp initially, is that freelance buyers that you're doing a job for the first time are looking typically to hire somebody that they can use on a repetitive basis. And you know, if you have, as a friend of mine calls it, the worm's eye view, you can say this is only a $25 job. But as many of the people that I've talked to over the years and have come through our program, it's a $2,000 job, or a $5,000 job, or a $10,000 job, because once they find somebody that can write good articles for their newsletter, or somebody that can help them well in their customer service area, troubleshoot problems and develop training manuals or whatever it might be, they're not going to let you go. And given the job market as we sit here at the end of March in 2022, the job market is very difficult right now. Companies are turning to freelancers at levels never before seen, because they can't hire the employees they need, just because the talent pool is so small. And, we're not talking about sitting there answering the phones, saying hello, hello at a minimum wage kind of job. We're talking about those jobs where you can bring your domains of knowledge to bear, your decades of experience to bear on whatever their challenges might be. But the idea is most people dump the wheelbarrow in the lobby uh, all at once, saying, gee, thanks for awarding me this job. I'll get on it right away. And there's lots of other stuff that we can do together because I know how to do this and I know how to do that and I know how to do this other thing. And your buyer doesn't want to hear or see that. And, that's they don't want to have anything to do with it. So the idea with repeat business is you want to do the first job with excellence. And you want to communicate well with the client. If they want a draft submitted, you want to do that well. If they want corrections after you've submitted the final job, you want to do that well. They want to realize that that is the way that you work. And it's only after you've completed that first job and that client is completely satisfied that you begin to have the discussion about the opportunity to do future work. And that is a very important aspect to that. Just understand that that first job is an audition. It's a job interview. And unlike all the job interviews you get on where you didn't get paid, you're actually getting paid for this job interview. And you don't have to leave home to go do the job interview either. It's typically an assignment that you're going to be able to do from home and that kind of thing. And so Greg has a couple of things here. So you've applied for many jobs in the town where I live. And this is another concept. I would say, why are you applying for jobs in the town where you live? Because when you work online, you can work anywhere around the world. You can do proofreading for a company in France that has an American division or Canadian division that needs their website translations proofread from French to English. And so that's the the importance of not thinking locally but thinking globally. And Greg's mentioning that he was testing the job market. And I can tell you some things about the job market. If you're over 50, companies don't want to hire you because your cost to their insurance is going to be their health insurance is going to be much higher than somebody that they hire that is younger. So that, they can't say this in the hiring process, but there's tremendous age discrimination around this topic. And that's why even if everything on your resume lined up with that job, you wouldn't get that job because, the boss had said in a whisper campaign, we don't want to hire anybody over 50. And it's just what you're going to get out there. And yes, you're right. Being 107 is not a plus unless you've got really good vitamins and minerals that you can recommend to the person that's hiring you. So that's very good. And then the other thing, this is, I talk to a lot of people, and it is a sad story, that people put together a resume. And the difference on a system like Upwork and a resume, a resume sends people in the wrong direction. If you're preparing a resume and you're over 50, you're probably headed in the wrong career direction, because a resume goes to corporations who hire you and are looking at younger candidates who have lower salary demands, who are willing to work longer hours in many cases, work weekends, work nights, which is disruptive to many people over 50. We know that people over 50 tend to have more sleeping problems than people under 50. And if a company wants you, I remember talking to a woman that worked for one of the, sort of the big box construction uh, companies where you go in and you buy your lumber and you buy your nails and you buy your sinks and all that kind of stuff. But their hours were in the middle of the night, and it just played havoc with their health, and their schedule was not certain. It's not like you get 90 days of, you're working from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. or whatever it is. It's like, this week we need you uh, for these 3 nights and these 2 days. So you're constantly shifting your schedule back and forth. And the resume isn't going to get it. That's the great thing about online freelancing is you just dive in there and you start working on the things you like to do. And when you do a $25 job and it's a proofreading job, and you get to say, I didn't like doing that proofreading at all. You get to go pick another job. Maybe you go pick working on PowerPoint presentations or spreadsheets or helping with the customer service organization where you had experience in that industry. So lots of good, um, good ways to cultivate that repeat business, but you got to be fishing in the right lake. And in the corporate lake and the lake where you're using a resume for bait today for anybody over 50 is not as potentially lucrative. Uh, and forget lucrative. Let's talk about lifestyle. I just saw an article in the Wall Street Journal, I think it was. It said it's that people are uh, more authentic when they work from home because they're dressed comfortably rather than dressing to impress in a corporate office, that kind of thing. So very interesting insights coming along from the world of the Wall Street Journal telling us what might be a better way to go. So that's pretty much what I wanted to cover today. Remember, go for the small job, not the big job. You can do it 6 to 12 jobs, 1 to 2 hours. Get it done in the first 30 to 60 days you've started doing this. You'll learn a lot. Your confidence will build tremendously, and you'll wind up very comfortable pursuing those larger jobs with a stronger recommendation rating when the person can see that you know how to satisfy clients. Be flexible. If the jobs you're getting are not in an area that's interesting to you, go find those 2 or 3 areas that are exactly interesting to you, and combine your skill set with those jobs. Look specifically for the domain of knowledge that we like to call it. If you're interested in aviation but never worked in that field, but know a lot about it, used to go to air shows, read Flying Magazine, you know a lot about aviation, tap into that, have that be part of your domain of knowledge stack. And then repeat business. Don't ask for repeat business on the first date. Get to know the person, get to know their style, get to know if you want to like working with them. One of our uh, big principles in doing this is you want to work for freelance buyers who appreciate you. You don't want to work for somebody that's a problem to work for, who is negative, who doesn't get who you are, what your experience set is, because usually you're going to earn less when you're dealing with that particular person. So with that, I'd like to say have a great weekend. We'll see you next Tuesday night for those of you that are members, and we'll see you next Facebook Friday for everybody else. And enjoy.